Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dancing. Like I can fly and don't even think of touching the ground. Like a heartbeat skipped like an open page. Like a one-way trip on an aeroplane. It's the way that I feel when I'm with you. Brand new. Welcome back to StillerBros at the Movies, where today we are experiencing something brand new, but also familiar. Spider-Man Brand New Day.
So 5 years ago, that was the last entry in the Spider-Man Home trilogy, No Way Home, and with that came a fresh start for the Spider-Man character.
Yes, because at the end of the movie, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen the movie in the last 5 years, Peter Parker, in an attempt to stop a multiversal collapse, forces everybody in the universe to forget that he exists.
And as such, we are on a clean slate. Peter Parker continues to operate as Spider-Man with no memory of Peter Parker, leaving any existing loved ones of his to not remember who he is.
Because in the final moments of the movie, he decided to not try to tell MJ and Ned that they are his friends, that somehow maybe the memory erase didn't take the way that Doctor Strange had intended it. So instead, they go off to live their lives while Peter is just kind of existing out in the city doing his Spider-Man thing.
And when that movie came out, we wondered who would take on the next Spider-Man movie and what would happen in the next Spider-Man movie. And obviously, now we know, because they have taken the title from a very infamous story in the Spider-Man universe.
A little bit of background. In 1987, in an attempt to boost comic sales, Stan Lee came up with the idea of having Spider-Man and Mary Jane Watson, his longtime girlfriend, get married. Originally, this was supposed to only happen in the comic strips, but the higher-ups at Marvel decided, no, we're going to do it in the main storyline. We're even going to do a big football halftime show of two actors playing Spider-Man and Mary Jane getting married. This was a big thing, and for 20 years, that was the status quo in Marvel, that Spider-Man was married, he was having adult problems. But then, in around 2007, Marvel editor-in-chief Joe Quesada decided that was boring. No one wants to read Spider-Man stories where he's talking about domestic life or anything like that. And so he decided that Spider-Man and Mary Jane were no longer going to be married. Now, would this mean getting divorced? No, because apparently that would age the character too much. So instead, he made the infamous decision to have Spider-Man sell his marriage to the devil.
Because comic books are super normal.
But anyway, he sold his marriage to the devil, so retroactively, the marriage never happened. And so they named that storyline One More Day for convoluted reasons that I feel like I shouldn't have to get into on top of everything else. But they named the next storyline after that Brand New Day. And that was all just a long-winded way of saying that this was their adaptation of Spider-Man One More Day, and now this is Brand New Day.
Yes.
This fucking dork!
And coming into this movie, we have the returns, once again, of Tom Holland and Zendaya and Jacob Batalon.
Even though Zendaya and Jacob Batalon were basically got an excuse to maybe sit this one or even the next couple ones out.
And then because John Watts, like we said in our Fantastic Four video, has taken a break from superhero movies, we have taking the director's chair this time around, Destin Daniel Cretton, who, of course, directed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings for Marvel just 5 years ago.
And was also, for a time, attached as a creator and executive producer on the Wonder Man series that literally got canceled a couple hours ago.
Well, that sucks.
Yep.
This especially sucks that this is how I find out about it.
But the important thing is that Destin Daniel Cretton is a new voice within the Spider-Man universe, but he's not an untested voice in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For a time, he was even attached to a different movie that we will talk about in December.
Yes, but we have the same writers coming back. Eric Summers and Chris McKenna are returning for their 4th round with Spider-Man.
Which, if you're going to keep any crew members consistent, might as well be the people who write the characters and know who they're talking through. And of course, from what we've seen, we've got these amazing web-slinging sequences that, from what we can tell, are done at least a good chunk of them practically for the first time in a long time in a Spider-Man movie.
And we also have some new cast members joining the fray, with Mark Ruffalo, John Bernthal returning to the MCU for playing the roles of Bruce Banner and Punisher.
And then we have Stranger Things' Sadie Sink playing a character that the internet has been trying to figure out for pretty much the entire time that she's been cast. Who is she playing? And a lot of them jumping to a certain conclusion that I won't name because it could potentially spoil everybody.
Yeah, but they've done as good a job as they can keeping Sadie Sink's role in the movie as secretive as possible, so that going in we can be surprised.
Though some would argue that the surprise of Sadie Sink's casting has been kept about as well as the other secret casting from the previous installment in a Spider-Man movie. We'll see.
We'll see.
But the important thing is that the big selling point of this is that after a lot of traipsing around the multiverse, fighting aliens and everything like that, the big selling point of this movie is that Spider-Man, for the first time since Homecoming, is going back to his street-level roots, where he's just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And speaking of multiversal superheroes with street-level antagonists...
God, I miss doing that.
But the other thing is that with this is one of only 2 movies that Marvel is putting out this year.
Yeah, and then Marvel is only seems to have 1 movie on the docket next year.
Yeah, they didn't announce anything at Comic-Con that's coming out next year, though we are excited for the stuff that they did full-on announce. But either way, this is going to be kind of a smaller movie in the sense that, like I said, it's street level, but it is promising for big leaps in the story. Like, in the trailers, they've already pretty much shown that they're going to be showing a storyline from the comics in which Spider-Man goes through his mutation disease era. So, could we be getting Man-Spider?
Well, Tom Holland already said no, this is a kid's movie.
Well, either way, could we potentially be getting more hints at Miles Morales than the last time we got any hints towards Miles Morales in the MCU?
I don't want those weapons in this neighborhood. I got a nephew who live here.
We'll see what happens, but really, this is kind of just going to be an interesting idea, especially because I think if this works, it will give us a pretty good idea of what Destin Daniel Cretton's work on his Naruto movie is going to be in the coming years, because if he can get the darker tone but still funny, he might be able to nail Naruto.
But that is on top of the fact that this is a whole new trilogy. This is a whole new experiment into what Tom Holland can do, because he's not in high school anymore. Tom Holland now needs to actually be a more adult Spider-Man and deal with adult problems.
We're kind of in the same era of Spider-Man 2, where being Spider-Man along with his regular problems are going to be the main story of this entire movie.
And while they had originally intended for like the entire Spider-Man history in the MCU to basically be every year is a new school experience, it's like that didn't work out that way, because that's not how school years work. But still, it's also the fact that now Tom Holland is no longer like hiding behind the plucky kid persona that Spider-Man has had to be for he now has to be, I am Spider-Man.
Yeah. But ultimately, we'll see what happens. I have been getting gradually more excited every time I see something from this.
Honestly, I'm just glad that we're seeing a movie this summer that's not so marred in fake controversy that it has to dominate the entire episode.
No, that's... Well, is it... No, well, next time it's probably going to be some more... We'll have definitely a lot of stuff to talk about, but that's next time.
Yeah, but for right now, we'll see after the jump. So just like last time we covered an MCU Spider-Man movie, we have to start with a little viewer discretion warning. We are going to be very careful about spoilers. We're going to try not to touch anything that wasn't already explicitly shown in the trailer or any casting news that wasn't already out there. But if at any point we slip up from this point forward, we're going to give you a mild spoiler warning. If at any point we slip up and accidentally say something that anyone might consider a spoiler about the plot, about the characters, about even the 3 different twists that come in the final act, we're just going to say you were warned. We're going to give everyone a quick second to get off. Just know that we recommend this movie, and it's an MCU Spider-Man movie, so if you were interested in seeing it, then you were probably already planning to see it, and more importantly, we just recommend that you see it before the most annoying people on the internet suddenly decide that it's this thing single-handedly killing cinema.
Okay, so I really enjoyed this movie.
Yes, this is a very good new addition to the characters, to everything that the MCU has made of this particular sub-franchise within it.
I don't know if I would call it the best of these the Spider-Man movies that have been coming out with Marvel Studios. It's not the best Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's very clear that Spider-Man is something they feel passionate about, something that they definitely felt like, if we're going to do this again, the first ever 4th movie in a Spider-Man franchise, the start of a whole new trilogy of these, we need to do this in a way that feels right. And I think they did it in a way that feels right. If you're worried about the too many villains, don't worry about that. If you've seen the announcements for the fact that Tombstone's in this, the fact that Scorpion is in this, the fact that there's probably a secret villain, it doesn't matter, because they found a way to balance all of that in a way that feels like an old school Spider-Man comic.
It feels a little long, and it also feels a little jumbled at times with certain elements. I in a non-derogatory way, this feels like one of those YouTube Spider-Man fan films that you see.
Yeah, but the thing is that it feels like this is particularly... If it's scrambled, it's because there's clearly something bigger that they're setting up. That they're clearly deciding, we want to do this as a big jumping off point. And so when they go in and they're just like, we're going to focus on this particular character, there's very much this idea that this is going to be a big deal for the greater Marvel universe, if not the Spider-Man movies. And of course, the fact of the matter is that this is still a Spider-Man movie, and I really think that, weirdly enough, I'm going to just say what the weirdest thing I'm ever going to say. I agree with Frank Miller. Not in everything else. Not in the worst things that Frank Miller has said or done. But in the fact that this might be the most Steve Ditko that a Spider-Man movie has ever felt.
Yeah.
This definitely looks like Steve Ditko's art jumped right off the pages of old 1960s Spider-Man comic books. And not just because there's moments in this where they specifically went out of their way to recreate some of the most iconic 1960s Spider-Man comic covers.
It is interesting just how mature and darker than the others this is, but it's colorful.
Yeah. And also notice that when we say mature, we don't mean grimdark for the sake of being grimdark. This is not like Avatar on Netflix.
Even though this is a lot less funny than the original Home trilogy.
The original Home trilogy was explicitly John Hughes, Saved by the Bell inspired high school comedies, but this is very explicitly a more adult-oriented movie. But since it stars Spider-Man, it also has a lot of elements, for kids. And it's not to say that it's humorless. There's a lot of jokes in here, because why would you keep Ned in the movie if...
You can't do a Spider-Man movie and not have him constantly quipping. That's part of the character.
And it really, really works. And I think one of my favorite elements, honestly, John Bernthal as the Punisher.
John Bernthal as the Punisher is amazing. Him and Tom Holland have amazing on-screen chemistry. I love the two of them together, and it makes sense because the two of them are the reason that they got these parts. They coached each other through their auditions for these parts all the way back in 2015.
Go home!
And I love the fact that the movie plays off Frank Castle as the Punisher as basically a kind of warning sign of this is what Peter could be if he continues to go down this solitary path that he has chosen to go down ever since the end of Spider-Man No Way Home.
But then we see Frank kind of come out of his shell a little bit and show that he cares.
And for those uninitiated in the Punisher mythos, there is a brief moment where they're like, hey, if you don't know the Punisher's backstory, here's the very bare Cliff Notes version to just kind of explain this is why he's such a hard ass.
Even though it doesn't really go into much detail on it, even though there's a lot of morons out in the world who are co-opting his logo, not realizing what the Punisher stands for, and that's putting back the blue colors on his logo is absolutely wrong with the character, you fucking morons.
And then there's stuff like Mark Ruffalo in what is more or less an extended cameo. If you've seen him in the trailers and the TV spots, then you've basically seen everything he does in the movie.
Yeah, it's the Hulk is in this very briefly for basically one action sequence and a scene a little earlier.
Just to basically establish that Bruce Banner is here, this is the kind of thing we're going to use it for, and there we go. It's basically the kind of thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was basically made on the back of. Just the idea that these characters are around, and so if Spider-Man needs to call somebody, there they are.
It's another very comic booky thing about this is that occasionally the characters will just pop in for a superfluous little cameo for whatever reason.
Hell, Bruce Banner's not even the most superfluous cameo from an Avenger in this movie, and just in case anyone hasn't seen or just assumed that the rumors were rumors, I'm not going to full-on spoil it, but all I'll say is that if you saw those rumors are 100% true.
Yeah.
And then, like, Michael Giacchino's score, still fantastic, still perfect shades of epic and little intimate moments here and there. What we're saying is the guy that we've very clearly shown that we love the score of, he's still really good at scoring Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
And Destin Daniel Cretton brings a really, really big visual flair to the swinging scenes, the action sequences. The guy's an incredibly talented action director. That
it's amazing that it took this long to get into making action movies. Not that he's bad at making the dramatic stuff, but he's amazing at doing action sequences, and I can't wait to see what he does next with either Shang-Chi 2 or Naruto, whichever comes first.
Or even Spider-Man 5, because somebody's gonna have to keep this trilogy going afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Once again, Spider-Man Brand New Day is just kind of a perfect next step for these characters, for all of this. Tom Holland and Zendaya still have amazing chemistry together, which, obvious, they got married because of this movie.
Well, not because of this specific movie. They got married because of these movies. It's how they met, and you can't fake chemistry with your wife, so...
I don't know if it's going to be like the best movie of the year. I don't know if it's going to be one of the best movies of the year. It's definitely going to be a really high grossing movie of the year. Once again, if you were planning on seeing it, you are probably already going to see it, but just go and see it before the internet decides that it's the worst thing that has ever been made.
Yeah.
So, that's it for right now. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, leave in the comments what you may or may not have thought of Spider-Man Brand New Day. And don't forget to tune in next time when, ain't I a stink ya. Bye.
Yeah, you don't like it. You're a fat nobody and I'm Spider-Man, so how do you think I feel?